Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Going to now be talking about this playoff run for the Boston Celtics, where they have been dominant up to this point, 10-2 in these postseason games, but the underlying sort of caveat to all of this is the fact that their path has been very easy so far. Now, we already know that the Eastern Conference, even during the regular season, was not all that competitive, and the Celtics sort of took advantage of that all year long as they won 64 games and were dominant all the way through, really, marking one of the highest net ratings in NBA history for a regular season. And so Celtics, they took care of business there. They got the 1 seed, and obviously when you get a 1 seed, naturally you are going to have an easier path in the playoffs, most likely. But it has gone even deeper than that. The fact that the Heat were without Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier. The Cavaliers, after Game 3, were without Donovan Mitchell. Jarrett Allen was unable to play a single minute. And now Tyrese Haliburton could potentially be out for the remainder of the series. Again, we don't have updates, so I don't want to speculate on that. But it becomes a conversation that Celtics may be playing 3 teams all without their best player, which is sort of an unprecedented level of injury luck sort of in the Celtics' favor. Now, it is, in my eyes, unfortunate because this Celtics season has been so incredible from start to finish, really. They have, like I mentioned, the net rating number. They also had the most wins in the NBA by 7. They had the best win percentage in both the Eastern and Western Conference. So the fact that these injuries are piling up do sort of undermine what has been a really good Celtics team on the season as a whole. And I also will note that they've been without Kristaps Porzingis since Game 3 of the series against the Heat. He's their, third best player on the roster, and I think that, the Celtics are just so deep that it hasn't necessarily affected them, and the fact that they haven't had to deal with these other teams at 100%, but if we had seen the Cavaliers fully healthy, I think that series specifically, we could have seen the Celtics really missing Kristaps Porzingis. That being said, though, they have a chance to make it to the finals without him. Now, as things currently stand, Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN reported that he could return as soon as Game 4 in this series, so we'll see how long this series lasts. The Western Conference Finals, which we're going to see Game 2 tonight, seems like that could be an incredible series that has the potential to go 6 or 7, which would once again sort of even take the opponents out of it. The rest factor for the Celtics has been a big deal because we just saw the Pacers go 7 games against the Knicks in the second round, and the Celtics' second round series came against the Cavaliers, who went 7 against the Magic in the first round. So they have been very well rested. And again, when you're the Celtics, you can't apologize for taking care of business when you have this type of a schedule in front of you. But it is something that NBA fans are going to talk about. And, that being the case, I feel like you can't ever really, the way that NBA fans are now, they just choose not to enjoy anything. Seems like there are very few championships in the past decade that are unanimously respected. The Warriors are really the only ones that get credit, and I think that that's crazy. The Nuggets run, they were far and away the best team. The Bucks run, a lot of people try and discredit as well because of the injuries to the Nets, but everybody just forgets about the fact that Giannis had one of the best finals in NBA history. So, my point being that nobody ever fully gets credit for the type of championship, and luck is absolutely a part of every championship run. So the Celtics have had their share of it. That being said, none of it will matter if they don't step up to either the Mavericks or the Timberwolves, who are both incredibly good teams. And they could possibly have a little bit of extra rest. But at the same time, I don't think that the Timberwolves and Mavericks are going to be making any types of excuses, because they both feel like they are legitimate championship contenders, and that is the case. And again, that series is going to be a ton of fun to watch play out. Either one of them have a chance against the Celtics, and neither one of them would be pushovers if the Celtics were to reach the finals. So, like I mentioned, I think that the injuries, as much as it's been, in sort of a gross way fortunate for the Celtics to make this run, I do think that, at least if you want to talk about credibility of a postseason run, it hurts the Celtics, because I do think they would have won every single one of these series headed into the playoffs. They were far and away the best team in the regular season. Now, I think that the other conversation you could have is the Nuggets, who beat them in both of their outings against the Celtics, and it's probably fortunate for the Celtics that they didn't have to face the Nuggets as well. As much as the Timberwolves beat the Nuggets, I think from a Celtics perspective, probably would have been more scared of the Nuggets because of, the Jokic matchup, that I don't think the Celtics had anybody on the roster to necessarily lock that down. The Timberwolves were perfectly catered to do so, though. So as much as the Timberwolves definitely don't want to, disrespect them in terms of their credibility, I think that they're an easier matchup for the Celtics than the Nuggets would have been. So ultimately, the Celtics, it is crazy the amount of conversations that have been had about the Celtics saying that they're not winning by enough, or when they do play in close games, that how are they not blowing out all of these teams? There really is no winning for the Celtics unless they win the finals, which is why, ultimately, season kind of doesn't start for the Celtics and for Celtics fans until that conference finals and the finals, where this season has been a pleasure to watch as a Celtics fan, but at the same time, we know that the expectations are just different, and that nothing really matters if you don't step up in the postseason. We've seen the regular season success for a handful of years now with Boston, but they need to step up when the moment's brightest. And I think that in sort of all of that comes into the discussion about Jason Tatum, who you would think is having a really bad playoffs based off of the way that he's getting talked about by the national media, and yet he's averaging 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 5.5 assists throughout the postseason so far. Now, the efficiency numbers haven't been great, and last night, the defensive performance from him wasn't spectacular in my eyes, but he has been a really good defender all playoffs long. He's been making the right moves pretty much time and time again, other than when he decides to take those stupid fall-away mid-range shots or the step-back threes. But, for the most part, Tatum has been really good, but he has been, I think it's just this sort of contradiction of people were looking to crown him as a top 5 player in the league, and he is probably, he's definitely, in my eyes, closer to number 10 right now than he is to number 1. So the expectations are sky high for him, but I think it was Richard Jefferson who made the comment on ESPN, it was either yesterday or a couple days ago. It's not his responsibility to sort of put up with the expectations that NBA fans put on him. He just has to go out there and play. And the Celtics, like I mentioned, are currently 10-2 in the postseason. You can look at it from the fact that they just have to go 6-6 from here on out to win the NBA Finals. So, again, pressures are sky high in Boston. This team seems like they are going to be cruising to an NBA Finals. And, as much as the Mavericks and Timberwolves, you do have to respect them. If the Celtics if they fall short again, and, injuries aside, as long as they are fully healthy, this would be a massive detriment to the legacy of this team, where all of these things broke in their way and they are unable to capitalize. But Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. But we're going to be taking our next break, and when we come back, we have a fun exercise where the Ringer the other day put out a list of the top 25 NBA players 25 or younger, and it got a lot of backlash. So I made my own list that I'm sure everybody is going to 100% agree with, but definitely had some changes from what the Ringer had. So we're going to be diving into that next. Stick with us, and we will be right back.